Good evening. I hereby call to order the November 28th, 2016 council meeting of the City of Mayfield Heights. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. DeJohn, Mrs. Finney,
Here.
Mr. Mano,
Here.
Mr. Mercurio,
Here.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Here.
Mrs. Snyder,
Here.
Mrs. Tressi.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. This evening, we have a special presentation from Cuyahoga County Office of Emergency Management. And with us this evening, we have Mark Christie, Macklin Flynn, and our Chief Elliott from the Fire Department. Gentlemen, if you'd like to come up, state your name and address for the record.
Mark Christie, Cleveland, Ohio.
Macklin Flynn, Parma, Ohio.
Again, my name is Mark Christie, and I'm the interim manager of the Cuyahoga County Office of Emergency Management. And we're very happy to be here tonight to present a plaque to the City of Mayfield Heights. Our program, our office administers a program called the Ready Certified program. And what that is basically a standards-based program for geared towards municipalities and large organizations to basically construct an emergency management program at the local level. And so it's a program that is standards-based off of nationally recognized best practices and lessons learned, and it's relatively rigorous, but it's achievable, and at the end of the day, it makes communities safer. Mayfield Heights recently completed this program, and our office worked very closely with Chief Elliott from your fire department, and recently Mayfield Heights is now the 16th community in Cuyahoga County to become Ready Certified through this program. So it's quite an accomplishment. It's not it's not something that you can just do overnight. It takes time, and my understanding of our planner Mac Flynn's experience working with Mayfield Heights is that the community's exceeded expectations on multiple levels of our program. So, like I said, I'm very happy to be here tonight to present this plaque to the City of Mayfield Heights, and I'm going to turn over to Mac. He's going to talk a little bit about his experiences working with Chief Elliott in Mayfield Heights.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for having us. I'll keep it short and sweet for you. My experience working with the chief has been nothing but easy. He's a fantastic gentleman to work with. Talk a little bit about the program and why we're here this evening. It's no small achievement. This is, I want to say, a volunteer program. Obviously, we strongly encourage communities to participate in it, but there's no particular monetary reward or anything of that nature. So this is extra work for these individuals in the community to take on, along with their day-to-day operations in the field. So it's an incredible achievement. It has to do with completing certifications, conducting and participating in annual trainings that the county and the municipality is involved in and puts on, updating the emergency operations plan, and the community has to meet a minimum of 18 out of these 24 standards in order to become certified by the county. So it's a tremendous achievement. Again, Chief Elliott has been tremendous to work with. He really cares about the community, and that shows every time that we meet. So I'll read the award as it stands on the plaque. For the City of Mayfield Heights, Cuyahoga County recognizes the hard work and commitment that the above community has made to emergency preparedness and the safety and well-being of its citizens. It is with great honor that the community is declared Ready Certified. Congratulations.
Thank you both for coming out. When Mark Christie first told us about this program, I said, yeah, send me the information. He sent it to me. I opened it up, printed it out, and it was a pretty thick document. I kind of closed it back up, set it off the side of my desk. About a couple months later, I looked at it again and started paging through it, and I realized that we are doing a number of the things that are needed to have this award. But it did force us to tighten up our belts a little bit, to dig into our emergency management procedures and some documents and update some things, and reach out to our other department heads and kind of do this thing as a group effort. And I'm proud to say, after nearly 2 years of work, we are here today. So, you know, obviously, I'd like to thank council too, because you guys were an integral part in some of this. Just a meeting or two ago, you guys passed some legislation to put a new generator in over at our community center. That's going to help us with our emergency management efforts and also continuing our operations on a day-to-day basis. And also, you passed some legislation just a little bit ago too, declaring September National Preparedness Month. That was all in partner with some of this emergency preparedness that we're trying to work through. So, and lastly, just want to thank the county, these two gentlemen. I have worked pretty tightly with these gentlemen and the rest of their office over the years on various projects, not just this, but I see them on every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks at various meetings. And just a little bit about the county. This is my 5 short years here working as chief and emergency coordinator. The Cuyahoga County Office of Emergency Management has really taken some giant leaps forward, and I feel very comfortable and confident in their abilities to help out the communities when the need shall arise. So we've witnessed that firsthand, and I've seen the hard work that these gentlemen have put in to programs such as this to look at the communities around them and making them a better and safer place. So thank you very much for everything.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Chief, for all that you do for this city and your department as well. We will now move on to resolution number 2016-74. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Resolution number 2016-74, a resolution in recognition of Lee Jewelers, having served the community for 68 years. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules? Moved by Mr. Mercurio, seconded by Mrs. Snyder. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve? Moved by Mr. Mano, seconded by Mrs. Snyder. Roll call on the motion.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes. Discussion, Mayor, would you like to begin?
Well, I'm not so sure if we want to have a discussion so much as to have Barry come up, and I'd like to read this resolution to you and present it to you if you'd like. Come on up. And I'm going to stay here so I can be on the microphone. And I will, I'll be out to hand it to you and shake your hand as soon as I'm done reading it. Okay, this is resolution number 2016-74, introduced by myself and all members of council. A resolution in recognition of Lee Jewelers, having served the community for 68 years. Whereas Lee Jewelers was established in 1948 by Leon and Florence Siegler at the new Mayland Shopping Center, fulfilling Leon's dream of opening a business. And whereas at the request of the developer, the store was relocated in 1954 to the new Eastgate Shopping Center, where it has remained. And whereas in 1977, after Leon passed away, Barry Siegler, son of Leon and Florence, took over the business. And whereas Barry has been very involved in the community with various organizations throughout the years, was named Business Person of the Year in 1987, and collected and sent coffee over to the troops in Iraq in 2007 and 2008. And whereas after 68 years in business and serving the community, Barry has chosen to close Lee Jewelers as of December 2016 in order to retire. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of Mayfield Heights, State of Ohio, that the administration, the City Council, and the residents of Mayfield Heights extend their congratulations to Barry Siegler for Lee Jewelers' 68 years in business in the City of Mayfield Heights. And this is passed November 28th, attested by Clerk of Council Robert Trivy, signed by President of Council Gail Teresi, and myself. Congratulations, Barry.
brief. Thank you to everybody on council. Thank you to the city, my parents, and myself and my brother. We've been part of the Mayfield community for 68 years. It's been a great place to do business. Your administration, all the administrations have been very business friendly. I'd also like to tip my hat to my landlord who's sitting back there, Mr. Hoffman. And it's just been a great run. I've known most of you on a personal level because jewelry is a very personal thing, and Joe over here too. And just thank you all, and you're going to be missed. I'm going to miss you as much as you guys miss me, and thank you.
We will miss you.
Thanks, Barry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Barry.
Congratulations.
We will now move on to the acceptance of the minutes. And we will begin with our Committee of the Whole meeting, which was held on November 9th, 2016. I hope everyone has had the opportunity to look over the minutes. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Mrs. Finney, seconded by Mr. Mercurio. Are there any suggested changes, amendments, or deletions to the minutes? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The minutes of our Committee of the Whole meeting on November 9, 2016 have been approved. We'll now move on to acceptance of the minutes of our council meeting of November 14th, 2016. There a motion to approve? Moved by Mr. Mano, seconded by Mrs. Sabetta. Are there any suggested changes, deletions, or amendments to the minutes of our last meeting? Seeing none, all in favor of the approval of the minutes signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The minutes of our council meeting of November 14th, 2016 have been approved as written. We will now move on to correspondence and announcements. Is there any member of council who has an announcement? Mrs. Sabetta.
Thank you, Madam President. Correspondence on the Chagrin River Watershed Partners. They have their November-October update with funding opportunities for the community, Ohio EPA recycling and litter prevention grants, ODNR Coastal Management Assistant Grant, the non-traditional MS4 training, the green infrastructure for coastal reliance. They also have the Ohio Stormwater Conference, the 3 Tree Steward Program, and they would like to please remember that the Watershed Steward volunteer opportunities are available. As a trustee, this CRWP communication may attest and help our staff for operating and growth. So I have sent this email to our Service Director, Joe Finaro, and Lorna Zeller for compliance, and for her to distribute to the department heads, the mayor, and the other staff. Second, on yesterday, at our city lighting, I received a card from a young man there, and I would just like to read it. It's a little bit different than normally what we get. It says, "Dear Mayfield Heights staff and administration, I hope that you have a very soon and wonderful Christmas." It says that the community took time in making it a place to live, for nice people, and of people of all abilities. We wish you all the best and happiness in a new 2017. Thank you, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sabetta. Are there any other announcements or correspondence anyone would like to share? Okay, Okay, next we will move on to reports of officers, and we'll begin with our mayor. Mayor DeSico?
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening. I hope everyone had a chance to spend time with family and friends on Thanksgiving. I want to thank our safety forces who allow us the opportunity to enjoy the holidays while they remain vigilant. And we are truly blessed to have such a wonderful group of people keeping us safe. I am sure by now everyone is aware of the passing of former Mayfield Heights Mayor Ross C. DeJohn. I wanted to take a moment to recognize his career that spanned 28 years as mayor, and he was also on council for 6 years. He was appointed to council in 1960. He presided over the 1968 groundbreaking of Hillcrest Hospital, and he also served as on the hospital board. Mr. DeJohn was instrumental in developing the city's corporate center. He also was ordained a deacon in 1983 and served the Church of St. Clair and the Cleveland Catholic Diocese for many years. He had many accomplishments over his lifetime that we have been the beneficiaries of in this city. But he may say that his greatest accomplishments were his 5 children, 13 grandchildren, and 9 great-grandchildren. I would ask that we observe a moment of silence in honor of Mayor Ross C. DeJohn. Thank you. Just one more thing I want to make sure that I acknowledged the service department, the fire department, and Mr. and Mrs. Claus, who were at our holiday lighting ceremony yesterday. It's always great to see the kids get excited, especially when Santa pulls up in a big red fire truck. So that really made it special for everyone. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mayor. And I also would like to offer the family of Mayor DeJohn our deepest sympathy as well. He took this city from a little bedroom community to what it is today, so we owe him with probably a lot less funds at that time than we have today. So you have to give him a lot of credit for building Mayfield Heights the way he has. Next, we'll move on to our report from our Director of Law, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have no report this evening, but I would like to note with regard to 2 agenda items, resolution number 2016-71, which is the purchase of the house on Woodhurst. I'd request that be placed on, excuse me, second reading this evening. And then ordinance number 2016-38, which is the enacting Chapter 151 of the Codified Ordinances. I had sent out a memo dated November 10th indicating that this had been reviewed by 2 council committees, and the second committee had unanimously recommended that it be adopted. So if it is adopted this evening, it can be effective January 1st. So if nobody has any objections, I'd suggest it be adopted on second reading this evening. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Are there any questions for Mr. Murphy? Okay, we will next move on to our reports of committees, commissions, and boards, and we will begin with our building committee, which is Mr. DeJohn. He's not here this evening. Mr. Mano, do you have anything as co-chair?
Not at this time. We will be looking at the ordinance that Mr. Murphy will be working on pertaining to RVs and recreational vehicles and that sort of thing.
Very good, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Mano? We will move on to Finance and Audit Committee. Mrs. Sabetta?
No report. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mrs. Sabetta. Any questions for Mrs. Sabetta? We'll move on to our Legislative Committee. Mrs. Snyder?
Thank you, Madam President. Our committee has not met, so I have no report.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mrs. Snyder? We'll move on to Public Works and Services. Mr. Mercurio?
Thank you, Madam President. I do have a report tonight. The Service Department has been hard at work working on the leaf pickup. So far, the crews have picked up every street at least 3 times, and they would like to like the residents to understand that at this time, the pickup is extremely heavy. They have 2 crews working 8 hours a day, and they are also working on Saturdays and at night. The crews are working extremely hard, and it's taking an average of around 7 to 10 working days before lapping the entire city. The night crew is also working hard on the main roads. In the evening, it's safer to do so. And over the course of the next week, they are estimating that pickup time should improve, and we should be able to get each street more frequently as the piles of leaves start to get smaller. There will be multiple pickups, so rest assured that that your pile will get picked up. The service department would also like the residents to know that this is very difficult to pick up a pile that has a car parked in front of it. And in this situation, that pile may be skipped, but they promise that they will return after circling the city to get those leaves. They also ask the residents not to put sticks or tall grass inside the piles, as this tends to clog and damage the machinery. And it's also unsafe and unlawful to put your leaves in the street, so please avoid doing that. Our goal, after multiple more pickups, is to have every single pile picked up before we put the leaf trailers away. And they will give notice in the coming weeks when the cutoff time will be. So make sure that your leaves are out on the tree lawn before this time, as the service department does not pick up in the spring. And on one final note, we have also placed our first order of salt. There was 500 tons of salt last week, and crews have gotten the salt trucks ready, and they did have to work over the weekend on November 19th during our first snowfall. And that completes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Mercurio. Are there any questions for Mr. Mercurio? We'll move on to our Recreation and Parks Committee. Mr. Mano.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mayfield Heights Breakfast with Santa will be Saturday, December 3rd. Cost is $7 per person. There's 2 sessions, one from 9 to 10:15 and one from 10:30 to 11:45. It includes breakfast, picture with Santa, and more. Tickets on sale now. Call the Recreation Department at 440-442-2627. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Mano? We'll move on to Safety and Transportation Committee. Mrs. Finney.
Thank you, Madam President. I have no report, but I did want to congratulate Chief Elliott on that prestigious award. And also, I'd like to echo the gentleman, how it is really fantastic to work with you. So just wanted to say you're very easy to work with. Thanks for being there.
Are there any questions for Mrs. Finney? We'll move on to our Board of Zoning Appeals. Mr. Mercurio.
Thank you, Madam President. We have 2 items on tonight's agenda. I see that the applicant is here tonight to present, and then if we have any questions, I'm sure he'll be able to answer those. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Mercurio. And we'll move on to our Planning Commission. Mayor, as the chairman, would you have a report?
Yes, well, we have one item on the agenda this evening, and I can address that one unless anyone has questions now. The applicant is here.
Questions for the mayor regarding planning? Okay. Thank you, Mayor. We'll now move on to our public portion. Pursuant to Section 121.02, subsection H8 of the codified ordinances, each person will be allowed 5 minutes to speak, with a maximum of 30 minutes allotted for the entire public portion. Although this is not a time for public debate, this is your opportunity to address council with your concerns. Please note that there will be no personal attacks allowed. Also, if you are here in connection with an agenda item, this is your opportunity to come forward and address council. If you would like to be heard this evening, please raise your hand and be recognized. Approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. And it is 7:27, and we'll open the public portion, sir, if you'd like to come forward.
Good evening, I'm Dave Toth. I live at 1574 Sam, and approximately 2 weeks ago we went to in front of the zoning board to get a variance for our garage. We want to build an attached garage on the house, and we went for a variance for the height and for the width. The height was because of the drainage issue onto our flat roof, which is next to the garage, and the width was because of the side steps, which are going to remain inside the garage. mainly because of my dad who lives with us now, and also my wife, so they don't have to walk outside in the ice and snow. And that's basically why we went in front of the zoning board for the variance. So if you have any questions, of course, I'll be here to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Toth. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard this evening? Mr. Hoffman?
Thank you. I'm Andrew Hoffman. I'm here representing Eastgate Shopping Center. My address is 30201 Aurora Road, Solon, Ohio. Mayor, Madam President, members of council, I wanted to cover a few brief points. First, I wanted to give an update on the Winking Lizard construction project. As you may have seen, the exterior of the building is completed. The interior work is being done by Winking Lizard themselves and their contractors. When I last spoke with Jim Callum, who is the president of Winking Lizard, he told me he expects to open no later than March 1st. Love to have him open as soon as possible. As you can also see, we have created several earth mounds that will ultimately have the landscaping that we had committed to do as part of the approval process, and that will not happen till the spring, but we assure you that it will happen. And I wanted to thank the city. I wanted to thank the mayor and city council, and in particular the building department, for their support and their direction and their guidance. We've worked through some issues on our way, and in every respect it's been professional and positive, and I appreciate that. And as a result, I think the building itself will be an aesthetic addition as well as a commercial success for Eastgate and the city. I also wanted to express my sorrow at seeing Lee Jewelers close after all these years. Sadly, it's part of a trend. You may have seen recently that Little John Rinaldi announced he's closing his jewelry store in Solon, and there are others. It's a sad sign of the times, but it is a sign indeed. And the last thing I wanted to mention, in light of the city's consideration of the Mayfield Corridor Design Manual, and I brought up this topic when we were talking about the approvals for Winking Lizard. I would encourage the city to be progressive and flexible going forward, because there are lots of different currents at play here in making at least a shopping center successful. And the single most important thing, of course, is tenant mix. And in this day and age, tenants are calling the shots. There are less and less of them than there ever have been before. They're very particular in what they want. They're very insistent on having visibility from the street, which may put it at conflict with the understandable desire to put trees along city streets. They are very protective of their signage and their brand and their look, and they're also protective of what they perceive to be as adequate parking. And so I would be the first to tell you, as I have for 21 years, that the parking ordinances could be relaxed a little bit and still have no problem. And Eastgate's a great example of the fact that we have plenty of parking. But the challenge is to satisfy the tenants so that they will want to come to Mayfield Heights, and that will continue to be a challenge. The final point is Mayfield Heights is well known throughout Northeast Ohio as being a key retail focus center, and we all want to keep that. But the reality is that retail is changing. Shopping centers are changing. Entertainment, not just restaurants, but entertainment is becoming a greater critical part of shopping centers and malls. And you're seeing trampoline zones and skydiving zones and indoor kind of neon lit putt-putt courses and all kinds of things that in the past maybe we wish we didn't have to consider, but we all do. And I would encourage the city to be open-minded and flexible in understanding that that is the new land landscape going forward. And whether it's Eastgate or Golden Gate or any other development in the city, in order for it to be successful, entertainment and restaurants and lots of things that we may not have thought of in the past are going to be a critical part of success. And so having said that, I wish you all an excellent New Year and Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman. I have been back to see the Winking Lizard, and the building looks terrific. I think it looks much better that now that it's been switched from what the original plan was, and it's nice to see the areas that are going to be green, and it's also nice that you always do what you say you're going to do. You move that salt bin. I was very pleased. I drove around and actually I peeked inside, but it looks great. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard this evening? Okay, it is 7:34 and we'll close our public portion. Did you? Oh. I thought I missed you. Okay. We will begin with Resolution 2016-71. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Resolution number 2016-71, a resolution authorizing the purchase of Cuyahoga County permanent parcel number 863-06-014, 1624 Woodhurst Avenue, from Edward A. Haywood and Nancy L. Haywood, and declaring an emergency. Second reading.
Is there a motion to place this resolution on second reading? Moved by Mrs. Finney, seconded by Mr. Mercurio. Roll call on the motion to place on second reading.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mrs. Trussy?
Yes. Resolution 2016-71 has been placed on second reading. We'll move on to Resolution 2016-75. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Resolution number 2016-75, a resolution confirming the action of the Board of Zoning Appeals of the City of Mayfield Heights in granting to David Toth, 1574 Som Center Road, a 2-foot 6-inch height variance to construct an attached garage to replace a detached garage. Cuyahoga County permanent parcel number 862-35-024. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Mano, seconded by Mrs. Snyder. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Trussy?
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve? Moved by Mrs. Finney, seconded by Mrs. Snyder. The applicant went before BZA requesting this 2-foot 6-inch variance to replace and construct a new detached garage. In our packets, council received a copy of the BZA minutes and minutes from the architectural board with suggestions that were given regarding the roof pitch. Mr. Mercurio, would you like to add something?
No, just as the applicant said, the variance will allow him to place a gutter, I believe, on the south elevation. Is that correct? To alleviate some drainage issues that they might have if they don't get the variance. I guess the drainage would fall onto the existing house, which we wanted to avoid, and we felt that that was the practical difficulty, and also that the variance will allow for the garage to have the same pitch as the house.
Thank you.
This was a unanimous approval.
Thank you, Mr. Mercurio. Any other discussion? If you're going to uphold or confirm the action of BZA in granting this variance to Mr. Toth, you will vote yes. If your decision is to modify, reverse, or deny the decision of BZA, you will vote no. Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes.
Mrs. Trussy?
Yes. Resolution 2016-75 has been adopted. We will now move on to Resolution 2016-76. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Resolution number 2016-76, a resolution confirming the action of the Board of Zoning Appeals of the City of Mayfield Heights in granting to David Toth, 1574 Som Center Road, a 2-foot side yard variance to construct an attached garage to replace a detached garage. Cuyahoga County Permanent Parcel Number 862-35-024. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules? Moved by Mrs. Snyder, seconded by Mrs. Finney. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve? Moved by Mr. Mano, seconded by Mrs. Sabetta. Again, Mr. Toth was the applicant. He went before BZA requesting this 2-foot side yard variance. Mr. Mercurio, would you like to add anything else?
Again, unanimous approval by the BZA. I don't know if council had a chance to look at the residence, but he's got an elevated entrance on the north side of the house, which requires stairs to get in there, which will take up about 3.5 feet of his garage space. So we felt it necessary to grant him the variance.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Again, if you're going to uphold or confirm the action of BZA in granting this variance, you will vote yes. If your decision is to modify, reverse, or deny the decision of BZA, you will vote no. Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes. Resolution 2016-76 has been adopted. We'll move on to Resolution 2016-77. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Resolution number 2016-77, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Heights Hillcrest Technical Rescue Team for special rescue services and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules? Moved by Mrs. Snyder, seconded by Mrs. Sabetta. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes. Do I have a motion to approve? Moved by Mrs. Finney, seconded by Mr. Mercurio. The city's been a member of the Hillcrest Technical Rescue Team, which is now merging with other municipalities and becoming one group to be known as Heights Hillcrest Technical Rescue Team. The annual base cost to the city for 2017 is $5,000 with $200 increases each year until the year 2020. It's a 6-year agreement. Discussion? Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes, Resolution 2016-77 has been approved. We will now move on to our ordinances, and we'll begin with Ordinance 2016-38.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Ordinance number 2016-38, an ordinance enacting Chapter 151 of the Codified Ordinances of the City titled Parking Generally. Second reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules? Moved by Mrs. Finney. Second? Mr. Mercurio. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Mercurio?
Yes.
Mrs. Finney?
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta?
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Mano?
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi?
Yes. We've held our public hearing on this. We have not held a public hearing. We have not. We didn't need one on this. So. The law director.
If I could, there
I
has
was
been
just gonna say, there
a
has-
meeting of the, as I mentioned before, the Legislative Committee on March 1st and the Transportation and Safety Committee on October 21st. And Transportation and Safety unanimously voted to present this to council with a recommendation to approve.
motion to approve? Do I have a motion to approve? Moved by Mrs. Snyder, seconded by Mrs. Sabetta. Roll call on.
What I just said.
Yeah. Okay. So now we can go to, we have to do another roll call. Roll call on the motion.
Mrs. Snyder,
Yes.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mr. Mercurio,
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes.
Mrs. Finney.
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi.
Yes. We're done. Ordinance 31. It is adopted. Ordinance 2016-31 has been adopted. 38. Oh, I'm sorry. 38, my fault. That's because I didn't take this out. Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 2016-41. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Ordinance number 2016-41, an ordinance amending Chapter 351 of the Codified Ordinances of the City entitled Parking Generally by amending Section 351.14B2 pertaining to parking of camping and recreational equipment. Second reading.
Is there a motion to place this ordinance on second reading?
Madam Chairman, I would ask that we table this ordinance at this time. Building Committee wants some time to reevaluate this.
Is there a second? Mrs. Sabetta. Roll call on the motion to place this ordinance on a table.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mr. Mercurio.
Yes.
Mrs. Finney.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder,
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi.
Yes. Ordinance 2016-41 has been tabled. We'll move to ordinance 2016-42.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Ordinance number 2016-42, an ordinance amending the zone map of the City of Mayfield Heights, Ohio, so as to rezone permanent parcel number 862-29-011, Gates Mills Club, 6757 Mayfield Road, from the current U3C Senior Citizen Apartments with Life Care Facility District to U8 Office, Engineering, Medical, and Research Building District in the City of Mayfield Heights. First reading.
Is there a motion, excuse me, to place ordinance 2016-42 on first reading? Moved by Mrs. Snyder, seconded by Mrs. Finney. Roll call on the motion to place on first reading.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mr. Mercurio,
Yes.
Mrs. Sabetta,
Yes.
Mrs. Finney.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder,
Yes.
Mrs. Tressi.
Yes. Ordinance 2016-42 has been placed on first reading. As we have no motions on our agenda this evening, we will move to new business or comments from council. Okay, since we have no comments from council, I would just like to add that there will be no meeting on December 26th unless there's a need for a special meeting of council on December 26th or that week. But at this time, we probably will be canceling our December 26th meeting and be back in session here in council January 9th, 2017. I know, it does sound weird. Seeing nothing else, do I have a motion this evening to adjourn? Moved by Mrs. Sabetta, seconded by Mrs. Snyder. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The evening is 7:48 and our council meeting has been adjourned.